Where does the WWE come in? So that's ultimately what sort of, I guess, pulled you out of your little cave there, but...
Yeah, I had to get out of the cave and in front of like a crowd of thousands of people live, of course, which is really funny because I really don't like it. I don't like being in front of crowds and a bunch of people, and I hate public speaking. But I just love the stuff that I get to do while doing it, you know? But yeah, I kind of, my friends, the four horsewomen, Shayna, Jessamine, and Marina, that were like friends that I made. I mean, I knew Marina back from judo, and I met Shayna and Jessamine through MMA, and like we really became like really close-knit group. And, you know, for me and for how hard it was for me to like socialize and make friends, like these were like my girls, you know? And they all started getting into pro wrestling, and I just started doing it for fun, and it was just so fun. And like, it wasn't a competition. It was everyone working together to try and do something great together. And so it reminded me more of like, you know, like filming action movies and doing fight choreography, except for it was kind of like in its purest form where you have to tell the story. Like in the movie, you have like the movie part, and then there's a fight, and then the story. And like usually the fight is like separate from that. And I feel like pro wrestling is like the purest form of combat storytelling, because you can only tell the story through the combat. I was just fascinated with that, especially, you know, want to be Bruce Lee. And it became that thing that like I started to fixate on and wanted to be better and better at it, and just would go into training and lose track of time and realize that I'd been going for 5 hours, kind of a thing. And I love that feeling of being lost in something. To my friend, I was telling somebody the other day, like, passion is my passion. I just love to be passionate about things. And, you know, I guess that flow state is fun. And I just love being in it. And then I started just training for fun. And then ended up, you know, I didn't really get an opportunity to go to WWE. I was kind of like, hey, guys, I want to do this. And then they were like, okay. Then it just kind of snowballed into, because at first I was like, okay, I want to have a baby soon, and it'd be kind of cool to go and do some pro wrestling for a couple months before I go and have my baby. And then it just kind of like snowballed into this whole beast and this whole like other life that I didn't know that I was going to have. But it was very much like a calling, much more than a pursuit, if that made sense, you know?
Once upon a time, if you had a business idea, it was exceptionally difficult to get going. But now, in the age of Shopify, it is exceptionally easy. As many of you will know, Shopify are a sponsor of this podcast. If you don't know Shopify, it's an exceptionally simple web platform for anybody that's got an idea that wants to transact on a global scale. So things like these conversation cards, which we sell, we've sold using Shopify, and it only took us a couple of clicks to get going. So why did we choose Shopify? For a number of reasons, but I think one of the big ones, which goes unappreciated, is their checkout system converts 36% better compared to other platforms. And here's what I'm going to do to remove the cost for you. If you go to shopify.com/Bartlett, you'll be able to try Shopify for $1 a month. I've seen Shopify completely change people's lives. And for many of you, I think it could change yours. One of the things that surprised me, and again, it's because if we only get to see this sort of 2D representation of someone on a screen, whether they're through your wrestling career or your UFC career, which is kind of like, all of it's kind of like acting. The press conferences, the bravado, is in your book, you talk about how comments online and newspaper comments and stuff would get to you.
I mean, you know, it starts off like that. But yeah, at first, you know, when everything's going great, it was like I would look at my comments like the morning newspaper. I'd wake up in the morning and look at my comments. I would look at my tag photos. And it's so unhealthy. But after my first loss, I quit cold turkey, which I feel like that was one thing that I needed to do, was to like not constantly need that outside validation and stuff like that, especially from the internet and social media and stuff. And I was kind of like spiraling in a way, and kind of like giving that way too much stock in my like emotional, state and stuff like that. And then pro wrestling, you're literally in front of a crowd that is like the embodiment of a comment section in front of yourself. That's also why I really enjoyed being a heel, which I, wish they would have let me be a heel more often, because that's where I feel like I was happiest, when I wasn't trying to placate to the crowd, purposely try to, piss them off and get a rise out of them, and not trying to constantly, pander.
I was surprised to hear about the WWE, that they kind of rewrite the script last minute, and that it's not, I don't know, you think of such a big business, you imagine they got script writers and the scripts are written
You would
years
think
ago.
It wouldn't be an absolute clusterfuck shit show, and you would be wrong.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's so needlessly dangerous. Like, no one can, like, a lot of times people can't rehearse. Things are changed last minute. A lot of times you see them outside, they're performing, they've only talked about it, and they're doing it for the first time. So a lot of these injuries happen because people just weren't able to rehearse, and the company doesn't give a shit because we're all expendable to them.
Did you feel expendable to the UFC? To the WWE?
Yes. Yeah. I think we all did.
You're all
and
contractors.
they made sure to make us feel that way.
Why? Well, they made sure to make you feel that way?
Yeah.
So that you wouldn't get above your station or something, or so that you would just do whatever you're told?
So, just do whatever you're told. Just take it.
And you're all contractors at the WWE as well, so you're not employees. You have to pay for your own healthcare and all these kinds of things, from what I read in your book.
Yep.
Which is pretty crazy. I mean, that would never be allowed in where I'm from, in the UK. And it's sort of Vince McMahon's kingdom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, supposedly he's out now because they, caught him paying company funds so he can shit on some girl's head in the office and, do a threesome with her, with Johnny Laurinaitis. But his cronies are still there. And so when that stuff started coming out and Vince was gone before, he was still basically just calling it in and running the company. And, but yeah, like Bruce Pritchard, who's there now, who's still like the head of creative or whatever title they gave him, is basically just taking orders from Vince and still running the company through him. And so when Vince was resigned formally because of all these like sexual allegations and stuff that were coming out, he was still running the company informally, and I think he still is to this day.
You don't have a whole lot of nice things to say about these people?
I mean, depends on who. The girls in the locker room, I absolutely love them.
The people at the top running it.
Yeah, I mean, Steph and Triple H, I think they're honestly doing their best. But I mean, I think that Vince McMahon just created a fundamentally sick environment. And I think if Ari if Ari Emanuel, who bought it out from WME, is going to be able to actually make this multi-billion-dollar dysfunctional organization into one that functions, he's got to clean out all of Vince's cronies. He's got to completely clean house and remove Vince's influence completely. But, no one's asking me. But that's just what I experienced when Vince was gone. He was still running the show through, people that he'd hired in the past. Bruce Pritchard being number one of them.
Bruce Pritchard's still there, I believe.
Yeah, John Laurinaitis took he was cut loose because he got named specifically in the scandal. But Bruce Pritchard is literally, I'd never heard him say a single one of his own opinions. He'd only say that Vince says this, Vince says that, Vince says this, Vince says this, Vince. And so he's literally just like, I called him Vince's avatar. That's basically what he is.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.